Okay, welcome back to Fast Ship Performance then. My name is Tim Davies, and today we're just going to talk a little bit about this Mannheim attack in southwest Germany where a police officer was killed and this Afghan refugee with failed asylum seeker was always killed. Guys, before I start, all I'm asking is that you just a little bit of respect from the comments. YouTube will take my channel down if we go too far, and I want to make these videos so that we can make ourselves safer because Islamic fundamental terrorism is here to stay. It's not going away. All right, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. I'm also going to talk to you about this book here, The Sword and the Scimitar, because in this book, written by Raymond Ibrahim, who's a student of Victor Davis Hanson, who's a very interesting chap. Davis Hanson, as you probably know, is a conservative commentator in America. He's a military historian. He's, I think, a professor at California universities at Fresno. I'm not too sure now. But in this book, from literally page 1, it talks about Islam, and it's going to be fascinating because this young man here, I want you to understand where his motivations come from, because unless we understand where the motivations come from, you're not going to be able to defend your family against it. Again, let's be respectful. If we're not respectful in the comments, one thing happens. YouTube, well, two things happen. YouTube deletes your comment, all right? And another thing that has to happen is I have to remove your comments. I have to remove it because else I'll lose the channel. We don't want to be doing that. Okay, before I start, guys, I am the son of a British police officer who served for 37 years. He was armed response. Now, he taught me a few things. I want to pass them on to you, but I am not an expert at this. I am not. But I've got some observations. I'm not going to start mentioning names here. I'm not going to go into details of what necessarily is happening, but there are some things that we can look at and we can make ourselves safer, make our families safer. That's the most important thing. Also, I have police officers in the family, and there's been so much hatred towards the police officer involved in this, who's now, unfortunately, was killed. I see it completely different. I don't think this guy made a mistake at all. I think this guy's a hero. We're going to talk it out. All right. If you want more information on this, then there's this article in the Daily Mail. Oh, it's the Mail, Tim. It's a far right. It's not. It's just, it gives, look, there's a lot of pictures in here. So this is what I'm saying. This is the chap. This is what I'm using it for. This is the chap, Michael Sturzenberger, who was having an anti-Islamist rally, and pretty much the young Afghan man made his point, didn't he, really? He was stabbed multiple times. I think 6 people were attacked. And I want you to just understand how these knife attacks work and where they come from. And we'll just chat that through if it's a little bit, if it's all right. Not very long at all, guys. And we're going to play the film through first, its entirety. Then we'll play it again. We'll just stop it at various points. But this lady here is a journalist, Annabelle Schunk, I think it is. And she basically writes here, again and again, rejected asylum seekers in Germany become criminals. This was the case with the knife attacker in Mannheim. And basically in this post here, if you want to go and have a look at it, she does go over and over all these times where asylum seekers have failed and then inflicted violence in Germany. Of course, Germany, I think the Green Party are in power. It's a very left-leaning state. We are as well in the UK, of course, and we're seeing this as well. And if you want to find out more about the terrorism in the UK, especially Islamic side, we can go to Wikipedia here, and it talks about terrorism in the United Kingdom, the history of it, of course, mainly from the Irish Republican Army. I've spoken about that before when I was growing up. But if you look at the very bottom now, it starts talking about Islamist terrorism, and it goes on because it's a huge, huge factor. In fact, MI5 even talk about it here, the rise of the Islamist terrorist threat in the UK, and it actually talks about the first real one we had, which was, if I remember correctly, 2004. They were warned about development of radicalization of young British Muslims. We'll see how this Muslim here from Afghan was radicalized. And then a matter of time before something on a serious scale occurs. And then remember, we had the 2005 London bombings where there were 52 people killed by Islamist suicide bombers. MI5 are pretty much all over this. That's why you don't hear too much about what's going on. That's why we don't have this many attacks. However, let's watch the film. All right, let's comment on that. But before we do so, in fact, let's watch the film and then I want to talk to you about this. All right, guys, this is the film then. As you see, I made myself a little small. I've got to stay here for some copyright issues, probably. This is Michael Sturzenberger's rally in Mannheim, Germany, in a town square. Heavy police presence, of course. They're not expecting any trouble. Trouble kicks off. The guys in the blue tops here, obviously part of his team. We're going to watch it through once, and then we're going to stop and we're going to comment on it, okay?
Bitte was Messer weg! Polizei! Polizei! Geht zurück! Geht zurück! Ach so, Messer! Messer weg! Messer weg! Ich will hier nicht!
something my father used to say as a police officer: if you shy away from the recognition of violence, it will find you. And he's absolutely right. We need to start looking in the shadows, guys. We need to start protecting our families. And all I'm going to do is point things through here that I've observed. There are multiple angles on other videos, and you may well go and find them. The reason this is bad resolution is because they took all these videos down. Of course they do. And before we start, let's just go to this book here, The Sword and the Scimitar, then, by Raymond Ibrahim, and a foreword by Victor Davis Hansen. And it does go into 14 centuries of war between Islam and the West. This is a very important book, and if you haven't got it or read it, I would get it. I would have a read of it. It's really interesting, and I'll tell you why it's interesting. In the first 5 pages, it goes into Islam and what Islam is. And I just want to read you just something that I think probably influenced this man's ferocity in the attack. A young Afghan asylum seeker. His asylum, I think, was rejected in 2014, and he's still in the country. So, crikey, you know what I mean? Right, let's have a look then. Right, so in this page 4, it starts talking about the Islam doctrine of loyalty and enmity, which Muhammad preached, and the Quran commands, captures all this. The latter goes so far as to command all Muslims to renounce and disown their non-Muslim relatives, even if they be their fathers, their sons, their brothers, or the nearest kindred. Now, one researcher, it says here, summarizes: non-Muslims are described in the Quran as vile animals and beasts, the worst of creatures and demons, perverted transgressors and partners of Satan, to be fought until religion is Allah's alone. They are to be beheaded, terrorized, annihilated, crucified, punished, and expelled, and plotted against by deceit. So this is on page 4. I mean, it's full on, this book, don't get me wrong. It's steeped in history, but it's very interesting. And then the next bit then. So this guy obviously is like, okay, non-believers then, you're all evil, so I'm going to go and kill you all. But then the bit I really want to just talk to you about here is what happens if you... It talked about going into lands and taking the lands of others. And of course, this is the interesting thing here. So it says, they used to do raids, of course, back in... Islam is what, from 639, was it, AD? So it's a bit younger than, say, Christianity. It says, whoever survived the successful raid on the infidel was guaranteed all the usual spoils of war, plunder and slaves, including concubines. Whoever died during this jihad was guaranteed similar but greater spoils in the afterlife. Either way, they won. This is what Muhammad says here. I guarantee him either admission to paradise, said Muhammad, or return to whence he set out with a reward or booty. As for the martyr, now have a think about this with this attack. As for the martyr, the shaheed, he is special to Allah, said the Prophet. He is forgiven from the first drop of blood he sheds. He sees his throne in paradise. Fixed atop his head will be a crown of honor, a ruby that is greater than the world and all it contains. And he will copulate with 72 Huris. Now, Huri apparently was supernatural celestial woman, wide-eyed and big bosomed, says the Quran, created by Allah for the express purpose of gratifying his favorites in perpetuity. It goes on to some weird stuff about eternally young boys who circulate among the believers, await the martyr. But this is obviously something that goes back in. So it's worth having a read if you want to understand a little bit more. Now, we're not all saying Muslims are fanatical. It's like you've got fanatical Catholics as well, don't get me wrong. However, I don't think we've yet seen an attack. Tell me if I'm right. I don't think I've seen an attack by a Christian, Sikh, Hindu, a Jew. I've seen a lot of attacks by Muslims, and this is why we are concerned in the West because of this. So let's play this and pause this. There's the setup. As you can see, there is a police presence in the town. All German police are armed, of course, and let's have a look. Something's going on, so people are running to the aid, and that's a very brave thing to do. Don't know what's going on, do they? So don't know what's going on at all here. So they're running to the aid of what's going on. All these guys in blue tops. Those blue tops we'll come back to talk about this later. So they're reaching in there, trying to get him. I want you to see what happens next. This is how someone gets himself taken out of the fight. Watch the guy on the left. Stabbed. He's stabbed. This guy here has just been slashed in the leg. This guy here, slashed in the leg. Watch his next action. So there's something going on. Watch his action. Look at that. Head down. Head down. Eyes. Head down. Eyes down. But here is the threat here. Look at that threat. Knife in hand. This guy is out of the fight. He's taken himself out of the fight. He's like, oh, I've been stabbed. This guy could have run up to him, stabbed him up there twice in the chest, and he'd be dead now. Don't take yourself out of a fight. Don't take yourself out of a fight. Yes, we're going to get cut. A knife fight, you're going to get cut. My dad always said that. You're going to get cut. No two ways about it. The best thing you can do with a knife fight, guys, if someone's got a knife at you, is run. Don't try and trap the arm bar it, none of that shit. It's run. Create distance. people always tell me that with fights. I've been in loads of fights. I don't know, I'm not fighting anymore. I'm almost 50. But people always talk about, oh, in a fight, you've got to close distance. Distance gets closed in fights by itself. You haven't got to work to close distance. In a knife fight, separate, get something longer than the knife and get them away. This is why they used to have canes and walking sticks in London in the olden days, was to keep people away from mugging them. They used to keep people away. So now we've got this assailant progressing into this here, stabbing away, exceptionally violent. On the floor, what can you do then? You're on the floor with someone. Control the knife arm. That's all you've got. Control the knife arm. You've got nothing else. You're on the floor. Don't get taken to the floor. Separate yourself with distance. If you can't, stiff arm it, and then you're on your own. Basically, you're going to get cut. You've got to control the knife arm. Whatever you do, control the knife arm. You've got to grab it. You're going to get cut, but you've got to grab the knife arm, all right? And just hold that arm there. Just fucking hold the arm as best you can. Head, anything you can, you're going to get done. You're going to get done, but you've got to control the knife arm. Look how vicious this is here. Remember, this man believes if he draws blood, he's going to be a martyr and he's going to get all that we just heard about, all right? What can you do if a man's in this situation here? Notice how people come and they try and secure, I'm going to try and secure the arm. Body weight is sometimes the best thing you can do. Launching yourself onto someone. I weigh 200 pounds, all right? I'm angry most of the time. I've got to launch myself, control the arm. Literally, bundle, control the arm is what you've got to do. There's confusion now. The police start getting interested in this, and this is where, unfortunately, tragedy happens. What you don't see here is there's a guy in the blue vest that's going to run in from the left-hand side. Also, there's another cameraman on the left-hand side from another film, and he is in the line of fire of one of the policemen who brings his guns out in a minute. And see the wound on the guy on the floor there. Right, he's free, still got the knife in his hand, and you can just see how quickly a lot of these guys, when they do these attacks, they have some drugs or whatever beforehand to give them the energy. And this is why you're literally fighting a zombie at this point. And I would argue the only thing you can do with someone like this is to kill them. You probably haven't even got the physical strength they've got if they have taken drugs. You literally can do nothing with them, guys. I'm not talking about a particular ideology here. I'm talking about anyone that's doing this with a knife. So he's back up now. Look at people. Look. There's a police officer coming from the left here. Unfortunately, this police officer is the man that's killed. He's taken someone off him, and he doesn't know. Richie, that guy coming from the left-hand side. Another scene I've seen with that guy in blue. He is punching the guy. You can't see it from this particular thing. So the police officer sees someone punching from above, and the police officer then takes that guy out like that, takes him away, clears him out from the threat area. And they do think that guy in blue is a hostile guy there, and that is a fundamental. It's not necessarily it's a mistake in the capacity, because that police officer didn't realise that he wasn't. He might have thought, I'll take this guy out and that guy can get shot. I'm clearing that guy out of the way for that guy to get shot. Unfortunately, no one does shoot this guy. There's a lot of confusion. Who's the aggressor? This guy was on the floor, and we'll see what happens. So this guy is still going to get stabbed here. And that guy apparently was, I've read this, I don't know how true it is. This guy on the floor here in the black shirt there was an immigrant himself to Germany that was actually holding this guy down, holding the knife man down. And he obviously got taken out as well. He couldn't hold him anymore. And he was I saw an interview with him where he was very, very upset, like tearful dude. I mean, can you imagine? Like, he could have saved the police officer, but obviously didn't get the chance. And then the police officer, unfortunately now, you can see, when do people go for their weapons? Some people look like their arms are already going, but there is a police officer who goes for his weapon. This guy in the center here, I believe he is. Now his gun's out. If we come back a little bit, I'm not an expert on this at all, don't get me wrong, but you can see there, something's happening, people are there, no one's going for the weapon yet, no one's going for the weapon. Now they're seeing a knife probably for the first time, and they're like, hang on. Now that guy in the center there is drawing his weapon out. He's clearing some distance. Remember, everyone's clearing distance. It's a guy with a knife, distance. Everyone's trained. Everyone's trained. Knife, distance. Look at the footwork. Distance, distance, distance. Create distance. You've got to create distance for a shot normally. Now he's up. Look, the weapon's out. Now, the thing about this here, cannot fire. Cannot fire. He cannot fire because there's a guy behind him. There's a guy here. There's actually some civilians here. There's a guy filming. In some of the photos you'll see there is actually a guy here with a camera filming this whole thing. He's there, and that's why you've got some of the footage of the police officers there. So there's a firearm out here. You could argue that's a clear avenue of fire. Yeah, but the backstop. They always talk about the backstop. The backstop isn't clear. Rounds can go through people. Rounds can miss people. Even from that distance, it's really easy to miss with a pistol. Apparently, pistol guys in the comments hook me up. And then obviously we're going to wait for him clear. Unfortunately, he gets a couple of knife attacks in on the police officers on the ground. And again, look at the police officer here. Look where he goes. He goes from here around to here before he takes the shot. So have a look at that. Again, I'm not an expert on this, guys. Don't get me wrong. Bang, there we go. That's a shot there. Unfortunately, the police officer's been struck twice, and those proved fatal. And we don't like talking about this, guys. And then there's a lot of first aid that comes in. So there's a shot now. I don't know why more police haven't got their firearms out. A lot of police never do the whole career without drawing their firearms in anger. My father only pulled his weapon out once. He was armed response, as I said, and it was never discharged. So, you know, I don't know. Either way, look at the distance that's being created. So you're trying to get distance that when you shoot, you're not shooting at each other. That's what I've heard. Anyway, so now you got to look at this guy. Now, look at the confusion here. This is where people always go, oh, that police officer was in the wrong. He wasn't in the wrong at all. Look at the confusion. Look where the policeman with the weapon points it next. Okay, look where the weapon's going. The weapon is pointing at the guy he just shot. It's a massive deal to shoot someone. My father knew people that police officers, when they shot someone, they were instantly suspended from the force. It happens now, doesn't it? We know it happens now. We've seen so much of it. Instantly suspended. You discharge a firearm, that's the firearm, that's it, bang. Instantly suspended from the force. You're not allowed to speak to any other police either. We used to get police officers come around the house when I was a kid who had discharged their firearm, and my dad would be the only police officer speaking to them. My dad didn't care, you know. My dad was he wasn't seen, he was a police constable, but he'd been in for a very long time. My dad was a good man. So watch what happens to the pistol now. It's pointing at this dude, but watch what happens to the guy's pistol now. Look at that. Now it moves. Notice how the pistol now is pointed at this guy, because they all think this guy's in on it. And you say, people were saying, yeah, but he's got a blue shirt. Everyone had a blue shirt. This guy was above this guy, hammering him. And in another video, you can see him. I'll have a look through a Daily Mail article, possibly in a minute. He was above him doing that. So, of course, they still think this guy could be a threat, don't they? Now, of course, it's all about triage of the suspects here and everything else. So I haven't really got much else to say, guys. All I would say here is that they're covering the suspect. First aid, get that guy on the ground, that police officer. Don't stand him up. Get him on the ground. Sort the wounds out. Get that stab vest off him. He's obviously gone over the top of the stab vest. Get it off him. Get the wounds in. Pack the wounds. They do a lot of that. I think someone puts a tourniquet. A woman comes straight in with a tourniquet, one of the policewomen. And my only other thing I would say here, not being an expert on this, but what I'd speak to my wife about clear avenues and things like this, is where's the external defense? Where's the body weight facing away from the threat position? You've got a lot of people focused on one point here, guys. A lot of focusing on this. What about people coming in here that have got bad intentions? What about people coming in here? All right, coming in there with knives and shit like that. Is it an attack? My father used to say also, look, when an explosion's happened on the underground, everyone's going in one direction. All right, think about secondaries. Where are you going to put secondaries? On the main exit routes. All right, so maybe just pause, take another exit route. By the way, if you're a military man or a military woman, you can't not run towards the sound of gunfire. So just think about that when you're with your family. Although we want to run towards the sound of gunfire, with a family, it is best that you take that family out of it. Secure the family, put them in a cab, send them away, and now you can go and engage. But what are you engaging with in the UK? We don't have any firearms, all right? So again, that's it. Just think about the backdrop, I guess. I'm not an expert on it. And again, get that guy on the ground and start triaging him. I'm going to leave it now, 20 minutes. And as I said, I'm not an expert. Just wanted to give you some idea of, what's happening here. And there are things out there that tells you what's going on. It's like back in the IRA days, but these are sporadic attacks that you're not going to see, and it's only ever going to get worse. No one's having a conversation about it. We know that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not here saying that, oh, this is the most ridiculous thing, isn't it? It's like every Muslim is a terrorist. No one's saying that. God, no one's saying that. Absolutely no one's saying that. I flew with Muslims. I trained Muslims. All right, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But there are some fanatical people out there, all right, that are looking to do significant harm. It's written in the book here. Don't get me wrong. Very balanced book, actually. It talks about all the wars. Obviously, I think we won 4, lost 1, lost 4. So 1, 4, lost 4 over the 14 centuries. Arguably, this is another war, isn't it? Look, take care in the comments. But more importantly, take care of yourselves. All right. Hopefully, we get to talk again. Channel isn't taken down. Hopefully that's all right, guys. Tim Davies, Fast Performance.